All right, so I am Greg Pittman, and these are just my thoughts on the class so far. So my favorite lesson this far was just don't believe the everything you see or hear lesson, just because it kind of taught you have to do your own research, and it kind of taught you just because something comes from a reliable source does not mean it is correct. You have to do your own research into it. So the example I put in this slide was from an article from New York Times, and it was just saying Hitler was tamed by prison, and obviously that ended up being completely wrong. So it just shows that even though something comes from a reliable source, you have to do your own research into it to prove that it's right or wrong. And yeah, just like this summarizes basically it. Articles can be wrong even if they are published by a well-known article. You have to do your own research into it to prove whether it's right or wrong. And then, especially with the news today, this is especially important.
All right, so this is my overview of the year. And my favorite lesson was the diagramming and standardizing arguments. And even though I thought that was probably one of the hardest lessons, I'm a really argumentative person. Like I like getting the brain thinking and just like arguing like little things. So like that's why I liked it. And like learning how to analyze different types of arguments and breaking them down based on like the premises and conclusions was like really interesting to me. And this like will come handy in the future regarding like argumentative like papers, because I'll be able to easily spot like the premises and or the conclusions and the premises that support it. And yeah.
Cool. So I'm Andrew. My favorite thing that we learned so far this year was the Google operators. I actually learned quite a bit from that and have used a lot of them since. So one of the first ones is file type. And that you can specifically ask for many different things like PDFs, doc files, KML files. And you just do that by typing in file type : So super cool. And it will just give you those specific things. For end text, you can do the same thing. That just finds words in files. So like, for example, I put geophysics. That's one of the ones that was in the videos we talked about. Another one is site : and that brings up a specific site. So like my example was Stanford EDU. And the last one was using quotes. So my example, again, from the video was when Venus is the goddess of beauty. And if you put that in quotes, it brings exactly that quote without breaking any of the words up or anything. So I found those things pretty useful, and I actually have been using them just on like daily searches and stuff I'm doing. So I thought that was pretty cool.
And then for me, my favorite lesson were definitely those involving the biases and things like apophenia and the confirmation bias. Specifically, the one that I found the most compelling was the Texas sharpshooter fallacy, which I see a lot in my everyday life, and I really didn't know this was the specific term that you used for this sort of thing. And it's more important than ever today for so many people who are sort of selectively choosing to ignore differences in data patterns where something might not necessarily line up to what they're looking for, what they believe. You know, it's something that in especially like a political science field like I'm in, it's something that I think is really important to take note of and understand. All right.
Nice.